Nomad, Christian community, mission and the future of the church.
So welcome to Nomad Podcast and Happy New Year.
Yep, 2015.
We've made it.
We had a pretty busy December with Nomad, didn't we?
It was
multiple nomadic recordings.
Yeah, 13 and 14.
14 in the end,
yeah.
Busy time. You said welcome to Nomad Podcast, but actually...
This is Nomad Spirituality.
Yeah. If you're a reasonably new listener, that might not mean much to you, but about 2.5 years ago, Brother Wardo had an idea, I think it was your idea, wasn't it?
I think it might have been.
For Nomad Spirituality. We're a little bit concerned that Nomad might be a little bit sort of cerebral, a little bit, overly theological. So we thought a bit of spiritual or experiential engagement might be good.
That's right.
So we had the idea of potentially asking guests to sort of record a little meditation, a little reflection. We did one or two and then forgot all about it, didn't we?
Yeah, the podcast took over.
Yeah, life gets busy, doesn't it? You know what I mean? It's easy to forget these things. But we thought 2015, one of our New Year's resolutions could be to kind of kickstart Nomad Spirituality again, perhaps loosely basing it around the sort of church calendar.
Yeah.
And getting people to record some reflections for us. So it's not just all about the head, it's about the heart as well.
About the soul.
The soul, the spirit.
Yes.
It's about those things. So Ian Adams has very generously decided to kick off Nomad Spirituality 2015. He has a special place in your heart, doesn't he, Wardo?
Yeah, he was my first and only solo interview.
Yeah.
I remember that very well.
You remember it because you were so nervous, yeah. Those sort of traumatic events have a tendency of getting stuck in the memory, don't they?
I do, yeah.
I thought it went very well. I thought you did well.
Thank you.
He was, I think you interviewed him about how to start sort of missional communities,
Yeah,
I think.
that's right, yeah.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
If you don't know, Ian Adams is a poet. He's a writer and an Anglican priest.
Oh.
And he's also the master of all things monastic and contemplative.
Yeah, definitely. And the books he's written have been very good, actually.
Yeah, Cave Refectory Road.
Yes, I like that.
Running Over Rocks and Unfurling.
Yeah.
He's also the creator of Morning Bell. For Radiohead fans, he's not the creator of Radiohead's famous track Morning Bell from the Kid A album. We're talking about a daily reflection posted on Facebook and Twitter, which is also very good.
Good.
Yeah. And he's handcrafted a meditation specifically for Nomad Podcast based around stillness.
Yeah.
I was really kind of surprised when he sent the meditation through and it was on stillness, because that's something I've sensed God talking to me about over the last sort of couple of weeks.
Good timing.
It sounds a bit kind of grand, doesn't it? You say God's spoken to me, but when you just get the same thing coming from different... I got a book for Christmas on stillness. A couple of friends said that I might want to start exploring stillness, one or two other things, and then he sent a meditation through on how to find stillness.
Is that because you've been running around a lot, Tim? People have noticed that you've been so busy that they just think, just be still, Tim.
Yeah, after the
Take some
14th
time out.
podcast in 14 days, people saying perhaps stillness is something
or
you need
maybe
to
it was
consider.
Hannah, your wife, sort of hinting to people, can you just send them these things?
My feeling is, Wardo, that the spiritual practices that probably have the most benefit are the ones that are most different from your personality type.
Oh, that's interesting.
Do you know what I'm saying? Mm. And my personality type isn't stillness, really. As I kind of reflect on my life, my personality type is more about activity, I would say, trying to define myself by what I do. I did a little sort of timeline just as I was thinking about this before you came around, and there's kind of whole chunks in my life where I was completely focused on sport, then I was completely focused on education, completely focused on travel, completely focused on religion. So all activity, sort of trying to find myself through achieving those things. Yeah. So for me, doing nothing is quite challenging.
It's a scary place to be, isn't it?
It is a scary place to be, yeah.
Because you suddenly have to start reflecting on yourself and thinking about yourself. But it's easy to be busy.
Yeah. I find that if I close my eyes in an act of stillness, about 20 seconds pass and I start thinking I need to check my emails.
Yeah.
Or, I need to do something. I feel most at peace, I find, when I feel like I've had a productive day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So doing nothing, I feel uneasy with doing nothing. So the idea of stillness is really challenging to me.
Yeah, good.
Which is why I sense God's probably prompting me, urging me towards a bit more stillness in my life. So I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions particularly, but I think my New Year's resolution is going to be to have a period of stillness every day, even if it's just 5 minutes. That's my feeling.
And this reflection shows you how to do that.
Yeah, not only does he give us a little bit of poetry and a bit of a kind of reflection on stillness, but he gives us some practical tips on how to do it as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think this is brilliant, actually.
I think it's very good.
It's really good, isn't it? And what a perfect way to start the new year. Because our whole culture doesn't lend itself to, you don't think 21st century Western culture, it's not stillness, is it? It's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So this is really countercultural, personally quite challenging, and hopefully helpful to our listeners.
Yeah, who are probably racing to...
Yeah, probably thinking, shut up and...
Let's just listen.
Hello. In this Nomad podcast, I want to suggest the importance of developing a practice of stillness and to explore with you what that might look like where you are. I'm going to begin with a short poem, a haiku from the Unfurling collection. Imagine your morning run, walk, cycle or swim, and imagine that as a place of stillness and prayer. We run together. Fewer words, shared rhythm, the sound of our breathing. Perhaps the most important movement we can ever make is ironically into stillness. To do something or to become something, it is necessary to do or to become a kind of nothing. Stillness, it seems to me, is the starting point for much, perhaps even everything that is truly good. In the great creation myth of the Jewish scriptures, the earth is spoken into being from stillness. A great wind begins to blow out of the darkness, and then God says, "Let there be light." The word and the world are uttered out of silence. This is the tradition in which Jesus is formed. Inevitably, we focus on his words and actions, but running through the Gospels we find at the heart of his practice a consistent commitment to stillness. He lives a pattern of withdrawal and engagement, of words and silence, of movement and ceasing, of gesture and pause. And if many of his actions take place in the busy towns, the quiet hills are his favourite setting for prayer. In stillness, something interesting happens to us. Begin to practice stillness, and you may start to find that much of whatever you thought was vital to you may in fact be relatively unimportant. Now, this can be disorienting, and it may account for why stillness, despite being longed for, notice how often we complain of being too busy, seems to be so demanding. Stillness makes us feel vulnerable. It exposes our hidden priorities to the light. It shows us that much of our activity, however good, however important, is a frantic movement on the surface of something much deeper, quieter, and more profound. We're like scurrying ants, pushing and shoving, carrying and manipulating the tasks that need to be done, ignoring the earth, strong and still, beneath our scrambling feet. But the demanding nature of stillness is also its gift. That painful sense of being opened up by stillness is what will free us. We can only reorient ourselves towards whatever really matters by first encountering our false orientations, and by recognizing that if our sense of self-worth comes from what people think of us or from what we achieve in life, we are likely to be disappointed. They may matter, but there is deeper truth. Stillness is largely unmapped territory. The 16th century Spanish friar and mystic St. John of the Cross describes his journey into this new world memorably. He writes, "I went into an unknown land, unknowing, stayed there, knowing naught. The journey into stillness is an unknown land that will require from us a spirit of adventure if it is to reveal its gifts to us. But if we can find the courage to make this journey, St. John says that we will discover all that we need. Stillness creates space for reflection, carves out time for pondering the nature of the questions we need to ask. It also seems to me that we can trust the words better that come from our silence. We can have greater faith in the actions that emerge from stillness. They come from somewhere strong and true. Stillness is not the same as silence. Silence can be an element in the landscape of stillness, and it's vital that we make space for silence and enjoy it whenever we discover it. But if we imagine that we can only find stillness in silence, we will be sorely disappointed. Most of the time, the world around us is pretty loud, and there's not a lot that we can do about that. So we need to discover ways to be still within a noisy, fast-moving world. And stillness needs practice. It's a discipline that needs to be explored, learned, and befriended. Almost all the great spiritual traditions have made similar discoveries about the path into stillness. Slow into stillness is my own practice. I'm going to share with you in 4 steps based on those traditions and on my own experience of seeking stillness. So here's the first part. Find a space where you can be without distraction. This could be a physical space, on the ground, marked out perhaps with a cushion, a stool or mat, a candle or an icon. It might be a notional space that you create with you when you go for your daily run or walk or swim or on your journey to work. First of all, find that space. The second step is this. Find a posture that is alert and comfortable. If you're sitting, a reasonably straight back seems to help. Find a way to allow your hands to be at rest, perhaps with palms up on your lap. You may like to close your eyes. So find a space, find a posture that is alert and comfortable. Third step, give attention to your breathing. Most of the time, we breathe in a shallow way. That's fine, it's how the body ticks over most of the time. But it's very good for us to learn how to breathe more deeply and slowly from the diaphragm. So, breathe deep and slow, giving attention to your breathing. Each breath is a sacred gift. Give space for a brief pause at the end of each breath, in and out. The pause matters, carrying with it a quiet sense of momentum and possibility. And here's the 4th step. Let what I call a stilling word or a prayer word form silently within you. Let the word form in silence, in time with your breathing, with each inhalation, with each exhalation. And whenever you become distracted, simply accept this is a fact and return to your word. The stilling word can act as a focus for your thoughts, or as a shield from all the feelings that seem to crash their way in. I've also found how powerful it can be as a statement of my intention. For example, I may use the phrase, "Here I am." As well as being a focus for some thoughts and a shield from others, the prayer word now becomes a statement of my intention. Here I am. To be open and present in stillness to the possibility of the divine, to the mystery, to God. It also acts as a reminder in the Jesus tradition that the Christ has promised to be with us always to the end of the age. So the here I am is both my intention and his promise. So I want to encourage you, at the beginning of this new year, to enter slow into the unknown land of stillness, unknowing, and see what may come into view in this new landscape of possibility. I'm going to finish with 2 more short haiku poems. So many voices, but I hear most clearly in the gaps between them. In each slow, deep breath, your life, so ever deeper I will draw on love. Thank you.
For more about Nomad, check out nomadblog.co.uk.